Imagine waking up one day to find that the food you eat has changed, not in taste, but in origin. The goods that once came from one country are now arriving from another. This is precisely what's happening in China today. The escalating trade war between the US and China has reached a point where it's affecting global markets. In response, China has increased tariffs on American agricultural products, making imports from the US more expensive. As a result, China is now shifting its trade partnerships, sourcing more goods from countries like Brazil, Europe, and Australia. This shift isn't just about China and the US, it has far-reaching consequences. American farmers face significant losses, while other countries see new business opportunities. Recently, China imposed tariffs of 10% to 15% on key American agricultural exports, including soybeans, meat, and wheat. With these higher costs, China is turning to Latin America, Europe, and Australia for alternatives. For example, higher tariffs on American pork have led China to import more from Europe, while beef imports from Brazil and Australia are set to rise. Similarly, soybean suppliers in Brazil and Argentina stand to gain as China increases purchases from them. The higher tariff on American wheat provides Australia with a major opportunity to boost its exports, especially given this year's strong harvest. In 2024, the landscape of agricultural trade could undergo a dramatic transformation. Previously, China imported American agricultural products worth approximately $29.25 billion, but these new tariffs may drastically alter that pattern. As a result, European and Latin American producers, who once struggled to compete with American exports, now stand to benefit. China has long sought to reduce its dependence on U.S. agriculture, particularly since the first term of Donald Trump, when trade tensions initially escalated. This poses a major challenge for the U.S., as its $191 billion agricultural export market could take a serious hit. Western farmers, particularly in the U.S. and Europe, may struggle to sell their crops, and some could be forced out of farming altogether. Adding to this complexity, China has been stockpiling food on a massive scale. It has already accumulated 200 million tons of maize, 150 million tons of wheat, 150 million tons of rice, and large reserves of soybeans. While some speculate that this is preparation for war, the reality is that it's part of China's long-term food security strategy. Another key factor is China's rapidly growing middle class. By 2030, an estimated 80 million people will rise above the poverty line and enter the middle class. This demographic shift will drive increased demand for meat and grains, demand that China may struggle to meet on its own. Recently, the United States banned 37 Chinese companies, citing allegations of forced labor as a major reason. According to U.S. officials, these companies mistreat their workers, subjecting them to harsh conditions and coercing them into labor against their will. This move has further escalated the already tense relationship between the two global powers. The U.S. government insists that forced labor and human rights violations must be addressed with strict measures. However, China's response could be swift and consequential. If Beijing retaliates by halting purchases of American goods, it could inflict significant damage on U.S. farmers and businesses. As one of the world's largest food producers and consumers, China is a key buyer of American agricultural products. A disruption in this trade flow could trigger a major crisis for the U.S. agriculture industry, affecting not only businesses but also the livelihoods of millions of workers. America's food export industry is deeply interconnected, employing around 180,000 people across various sectors, including production, processing, packaging, distribution, and logistics. Any decline in Chinese imports would directly impact these jobs, leading to widespread uncertainty across both small and large agricultural businesses. The repercussions wouldn't stop at trade relations alone. Rural American farmers, who rely heavily on exports to China, would be hit the hardest. If exports slow down, these farmers may be forced to sell their crops at lower prices just to stay afloat, significantly reducing their earnings. Additionally, if China pulls back from purchasing U.S. agricultural products, the American government will be forced to intervene. Policymakers would need to find new markets for these goods and implement strategies to mitigate financial losses for farmers. This situation is far more than just a diplomatic dispute between two nations. It has deep economic and global trade implications. The outcome of this escalating conflict could reshape supply chains, disrupt industries, and create long-term challenges for both American businesses and the broader economy. The world is shifting towards a new global order, often referred to as a multipolar system. This means that no single country or superpower will dominate global affairs. Instead, multiple regions will rise as influential powers, creating a new balance of power. One of the key drivers of this shift is the increasing diversity in global politics and economics. On one side, the United States and its allies, particularly European nations, are working to maintain and expand their influence through strategic, economic, political, and military measures. The U.S., which has long been the dominant force in global affairs, continues to leverage these pressures to solidify its position. On the other side, China is aggressively expanding its global reach, aiming to establish itself as a central power. A significant part of its strategy involves strengthening ties with the BRICS nations: Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. These countries are increasing cooperation and forming agreements to challenge the dominance of the U.S. and Western nations, aiming to reshape the global power structure. China has deepened its trade, political, and diplomatic relations within BRICS, while also increasing investments through initiatives like the Belt and Road Initiative, BRI. By developing new trade routes and expanding economic partnerships, China is laying the foundation for long-term influence on the global stage. This strategic approach is a crucial part of its broader vision to redefine the world order in a way that reduces Western dominance and establishes a more multipolar system. For India, this shifting global balance presents a wealth of opportunities. As an emerging superpower, India views this transformation as a chance to strengthen its role on the world stage. Long committed to an independent foreign policy, India now has the opportunity to deepen its relationships with a diverse range of nations. India's foreign policy is guided by the principle of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, the world is one family, which allows it to expand cooperation with other countries. The nation has actively engaged with its neighbors and made its presence felt in global forums, further solidifying its position as a key player in international affairs. These developments make it clear that power in the world will no longer be concentrated in a single region. While the U.S. continues to work alongside its traditional allies and China pushes to expand its global influence, India is charting its own course, one that embraces collaboration while maintaining strategic autonomy. This shift signals the emergence of a multipolar world, where influence is shared among many nations rather than being dominated by a single superpower. However, this is more than just a trade dispute. It is a struggle for global dominance that will have far-reaching consequences. From American farmlands to Brazilian ports, the effects of this evolving power dynamic will be felt worldwide. The ongoing trade war between the U.S. and China is not confined to these two nations. It is reshaping international trade relationships on a massive scale. As Europe, Brazil, and Australia find new trade opportunities, American farmers could face significant losses. The key question for the future remains: will China permanently reduce its dependence on American agricultural products, or is this just a temporary shift? The coming years will reveal the true extent of this transformation, shaping the future of global commerce and diplomacy. If you found this information valuable, don't forget to like and subscribe to stay updated with all our upcoming insights on global affairs. Your support helps us bring more in-depth analysis on the changing world order, international trade, and geopolitical shifts. Thank you for being a part of this journey. Stay tuned for more updates.